This was a really good win for the Flyers. There we go. A really good win for the Flyers, and it was a resounding win. And I heard Coatsy and Tim Saunders at the end talking about, it felt bad for Dave Haxtell. This is a game that he really wanted to win. I mean, he really wanted this one, right? You want to win them all, because if they plug in that big shiny scoreboard that keeps the score total on it, you want to win. But his team didn't show up for him tonight. And I think part of that, Bri, is also it's the fourth game of a road trip to start a season, and that's where you start to get a little annoyed being on the road. Being on the road initially fun. Yeah, it's great. We're on the road. Oh, this hotel's nice. Oh, we're going out to dinner.
Right.
Eventually, you're like, all right, let's get home. And you start getting a little road weary, and they were a little road weary tonight, and the Flyers punched them in the mouth tonight.
Yeah, I don't have I probably should the Kraken schedule in front of me, but they have played 3 games already on this trip. And, you know, this is not a short trip for them. Their building's not ready yet.
Exactly.
And so why on the road here at the start of the season? And, I can't say I blame them if, you got 3 games into this first season that you've been anticipating for a long time as a member of the organization. And, now the excitement maybe is worn off a little bit. I don't know. I could certainly see them, having I don't want to use the word excuse, but it would make sense that this ended up being a little bit of a letdown game just because of where it is in the season. Them as a team, unfortunately, they didn't want it to happen tonight for the sake of their head coach, but it does make sense that something like this came their way, and now they're just wherever they're headed next, they're going to bounce back from it more than likely. But
Jersey,
like I said, I think we would love to see them bounce back Jersey in the division and quiet some of these guys down, because that's the one thing the Flyers have to deal with right now is the fact that they started their season so late. The other teams in the division had been playing for 4 days already, and the Penguins had 5 points before the Flyers even touched the ice to start the season.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
Hopefully that starts to even itself out a little bit, but that's that's just it. Yes, it is an expansion team, but if this is going to be more of a traditional expansion team where teams around the league are going to get points against them, it's very important that the Flyers were able to do so tonight, because that's where you get into trouble. If you don't get points against the Buffaloes and whatever that's happened to the Flyers last year, everybody else tees up on Buffalo for 19 straight games, and the Flyers don't get their points against them. That's where you have to, you got to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, you got to take care of business against the teams you're supposed to take care of business. It's one of the weird things about the NHL, though, is the parity. Even the teams that you don't think are very good can win on any given night because a goalie can get hot, But you have to do the best you can to control that, and the best you can to control that is by not being dependent on what the other team does, be dependent on what you do. And it's what Mike Yo talked about before the game with us. When we met with him, is it's not going to. A couple of years ago, it wasn't about anything the opposition ever did. It was always about them, and that's why they were a really good team. It didn't matter who they were playing, when they were playing, or where they were playing. And then last year, it was all about who they were playing, where they were playing, and every aspect of it, right? And you see the difference in the result. So, if you can get back to being that team we were 2 years ago, with that identity, like, it doesn't matter who we're playing. We have to play our game, and if we play our game, we're a real pain in the ass to play against. Mm-hmm. And that sounds like the messaging to me. We want to be a difficult team to play against and something to prove has been the phrasing that we keep hearing. And if they can live to that phrasing, then you are exactly that. You're a team that is not dependent on opponent and not dependent on system or matchup or anything. You're just a difficult team again. If you're that night in and night out, you're going to get a lot more wins than you are losses.
Yeah, absolutely. That earns you points just being difficult to play against.
Yeah.
If you're in a situation where teams are looking at you on the schedule and saying, "Oh, that's when we're going to play the backup goalie," that's the opposite of what you want, and that's kind of where the Flyers had been. Not 2 seasons ago, but last year and the year before the run of 1920. That was happening. You were seeing a lot of teams starting their backups against Philadelphia, and they weren't really doing much about it.
Yeah, they'd make the backup look like a Vezina winner, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, from guys like, who's the guy it wasn't in San Jose. I forget who they would see. It was one of Hack's old goalies from North Dakota. I can't remember which guy it was, but he'd face the Flyers and he would look like a world beater. You're going, are you kidding me? You're making every backup goalie look great.
Right.
So it was Aaron Dell.
Yeah.
Great job, Pat. That's Pat in my ear giving me see why you're best.
That's right.
It was Aaron Dell. They made Aaron Dell. I mean, Aaron Dell against the Flyers probably is like a 960 save percentage. And that can't happen. You got to take advantage of it. But let's take a break because when we come back, though, we got to discuss, will the Flyers go with Martin Jones on Wednesday? Or will they go with Martin Jones on Friday? Because you don't want him to have too much time in between playing. Yeah. So post-game show continues. And I'll tell you what, we're going to take phone calls in this post-game show. So Flyer fans, you're leaving the Wells Fargo Center, you're just driving around, and whether you're at the game or not at the game, you listen to it here on the radio or watch it on TV. Let's sound off about it at 610-632-0975. 610-632-0975. We'll take a break. We'll come back, and we'll get to more Flyers discussion as the Flyers get their first win of the season, a 6-1 drubbing of the Seattle Kraken. We're back after this on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. We're back live here at the Eastwood Hall at the Wells Fargo Center. It's Brian Smith, Jason Martinez, post-game show as the Flyers skate off with a 6-1 win over the Seattle Kraken. I was just talking to a guy here, and he said they did what they had to do. And I think about that real quick. And, yeah, the Flyers did what they had to do. They came out. They dictated the terms. But I think they did more than they had to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. Yeah.
So what does that mean, right? That means the fact that Nick Seeler took on Jamie Alexiak. That means that Nate Thompson took on Nathan Bastian.
You know what else about that Sealer fight?
This mine?
Yes, that is yours. I've been having that dilemma too. I'm running 4 water bottles myself. You need a Sharpie or something. But that Sealer thing, Alexiak started in the Zamboni Tunnel corner, which is, geographically north end of the ice here at Wells Fargo Center. And he was tangling with Nick Aubé-Kubel. And then I was watching that, and then all of a sudden I realized there's something going on at the south end of the ice, which is completely the other end of the ice. And I start watching that. The next thing I know, Jamie Alexiak's fighting Nick Seeler. I'm like, wait a minute, he was over there.
Yeah.
He came about 150 feet down the ice to get into the second scrum.
That's a hell of a back check.
And then next thing you know, he's in the fight. So that was interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, Nick Seeler is one of these guys that Chuck Fletcher is very familiar with from his days at the Minnesota Wild. He's brought in a handful of these guys in the last 3 years. And, the thought preseason was either Nick Seeler or Adam Denning was going to be the 7th defenseman. And I remember Timmy and Coatsy talking about it during a preseason game that, Clendenning is more of a scorer, a playmaker. Seeler is more of a tough customer and brings that little extra edge to the lineup. And, Timmy thought he'd be a better fit at this point, and he's right. That's exactly what we saw out of him tonight was, that little momentum building edge and, kind of putting some people in their place when they needed to go there and also, building the camaraderie within this team.
Well, think about it. Your 7th defenseman was going to be Sam Moran.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Big physical presence. And Seeler brings that. He's a big body too, 6'2", 200 pounds. And he does bring that physical, type of play. And the reason why he's in the lineup is because very physical player, Rasmus Ristolainen, is not available.
Correct. Yes.
So the shoe kind of fits here. Let's go to the phones. We've never done this, Schmitty. We're going to go to the phones here post game. Unless we haven't done it this season.
Bringing a prayer here.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here because I don't know how to do this.
All right. Well, I do.
Are we mobilizing still, or is that not a thing anymore?
Yeah, let's go to Dave mobilizing, who's actually leaving the game. He's on the post-game show. What's going on, Dave? All right. We can't hear Dave. I don't know if Dave's going over the air or if Dave is not. Yeah, there you are, Dave. Go ahead. All right, you don't have him. All right, we don't have the caller on the air apparently. So, Rob, you can just kind of pull that down. I'll tell you what. Let's not take phone calls tonight. Let's just figure out how to do this properly.
Yeah.
So we don't screw it up and screw up the whole post game show. We got plenty to talk about.
We do appreciate the call. We heard him for about 30 seconds.
Yeah,
nobody else did.
And Dave, thank you for calling.
Yes, Dave, thank you. Appreciate the kind words about the show here. We're looking forward.
Was that what he was doing?
Yeah, he was. I could.
Let's take phone calls then. If you're going to hand out compliments, we'll figure out a way to get you on. No, I'm kidding. But we will be corresponding, and you can actually tweet the show, and we can go through some comments that way as well. At Jason Myrt, JASONMYRT. What's your Twitter handle, Brian?
B Smith PHI. B Smith, Philadelphia abbreviation there.
All right, and we live stream the post game shows as well. You can comment there. And you can interact with us that way as well. So many ways to interact with the program. And, the Flyers, they get this win. But, before the game, I said, I'm just looking forward to some hockey tonight, right?
Yep.
And
you got it.
I did. And as I sit here post game, I'm going, I can't wait till Wednesday. I'm a glutton for it. We all are. We love the sport. We love the Flyers. And we love watching when the game is played beautifully like it was tonight. Like the passing tonight, I meant to ask somebody downstairs about this, and I meant to ask Joel Farry about it tonight. It slipped my mind, but it's because it's something I got to ask some people about. Does it seem to you that this team is attacking the middle of the offensive zone way more than they did last year?
Yes. Yeah, I do see what you're talking about there, and it's funny you mentioned that as I'm reading a comment from Derek Brassard from the post-game interviews regarding Joel Farabee being all over the puck every time. Same with Cam Atkinson. They're both really talented, and for him it makes his job easier because they are both doing that. They are driving the play up the middle of the ice, and it is it's trickling down into the other lines as well.
Yeah, and Derek Brassard is a really interesting guy to take a look at, and here's why: Kevin Hayes is out, and Morgan Frost had that crack at that 2C position. They didn't feel like Chuck Fletcher didn't feel like his game was all the way back where it needed to be to see your Flyer. Do they opt to go with Brassard? They had other options. One with Scott Lawton. You could have moved Claude Giroux back into the center position. You have a lot of different options there. And Derek Brassard in this game, having a 3-point game, he has the goal. He gets a fortuitous bounce on the goal. Smart move, just getting the puck to the net. It goes in off a Kraken defender. He'll take it. But the assist he had on a goal later was tremendous. I thought he was really good in the game, and he does have chemistry with Joel Farabee and JVR already. Farabee's got 2 goals in 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about his tendencies to take big steps in his development when he was playing amateur. When he was playing first in the U.S. National Development Program, U.S. Juniors, and then on to Boston University. Excuse me. He would take leaps, not incremental increases, but he would be way better in a given year than he was the last year. And
he's a 3 steps at a time guy.
We were hoping that would continue because last year was a leap, and it earned him this big contract that he signed that doesn't even start till next year. And we were hoping to see another leap. Through 2 games, I think we're starting to see it. And if we get that leap, then this $5 million a year contract is going to seem like a bargain for the next 6 years.
Yeah, and I think he is just such an important player. He, along with Travis Konechny, from an offensive standpoint, I just think are so important. Like, you're going to get your points from Giroux and Couturier, and you're going to get your power play goals and some scoring from JVR. The wild cards are Joel Farabee, who led the team in scoring last year, and Travis Konechny, and they're both young guys that I think can really be the offensive go-to on this team. This is going to be a team that spreads it out no matter what. We know that, right? I mean, you had 6 different goal scorers tonight, but you also had a couple of guys picking up goals in successive games to start off the season. Giroux does that. Konechny does that. Farabee does that. Did Atkinson have one tonight? No, Atkinson did not have one tonight. But, I mean, you're getting it.
Justin Braun did.
Yeah, Justin Braun gets one tonight. He didn't have one in the first game. But, but you're getting it. Ryan Ellis gets his first goal tonight.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a team that spreads it around. And we've already seen a pile of points in just 2 games from the defensemen as well, picking up assists. How about on what was it, on the Justin Braun goal? You know who the guy is to his left on that rush attempt? Travis Sanheim.
Wow.
Both of them up the ice, joining the rush.
Yeah. Jump in there and figure it out. I mean, it's almost like a new brand of hockey, which is kind of
a lot more
interesting. And let's think back over the last 2 seasons. I guess it is theoretically 2 years, but the last 2 seasons, 1920 starts up, and you've got a team that is got a completely new coaching staff, with the exception of Ian LePerriere. They were learning new systems, and they were trying to get everything squared away. They had to go first to Prague, and then they had to turn around and go back to San Jose. It was some ridiculous amount of miles in the first 6 weeks of the season, and it took them a long time to kind of snap into place. It didn't happen until really January for that team, and then once it did, they were a force to be reckoned with up until the COVID stoppage. Last year, nothing really clicked. This year, you didn't know. We got 7 new guys coming in. We got 12 guys that played at least a game for the franchise last year that are no longer with the team. So how long is this going to take to kind of gel and to form a cohesive unit? I'm wondering if it's not there already.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the guys that came in knowing each other from past stops.
Yeah.
And in the case of Yandel and Hayes, going back to their childhood.
Yeah.
But obviously
they're veteran guys.
Yeah, exactly. They know, and a lot of them played for Lane Mignot before, so they know what to expect.
We're going to try and take another call, actually. Pat texted me now. Let's go to Joe from Drexel Hill, joins us on the post-game show. Joe, how you doing? Is Joe there? Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead. An expansion team? They take one from every team. Well, it depends on how you do it.
They were able to protect, I believe, 13 total, and you were able to, depending on how many forwards versus defensemen that you protected, and then you're allowed to protect a goaltender. So there's a lot of, it's a little complicated. There's a lot of different ways they could go about it, but in the end of the day, the Kraken took one player from every NHL team, and with the Vegas Golden Knights, there was a lot of wheeling and dealing, so they ended up with more players from certain teams than they did from others, but the Kraken didn't really do much of that. So it was pretty much one player from every team, and then they filled it out with free agency and what.
What's the point you're trying to drive? I don't know what the point was you were trying to drive.
Was gone, I believe.
All right. Yeah, I don't want to go rehash the expansion draft at this point. I mean, I don't know if there's ever going to be expansion again. Who knows? I mean, there probably will be at some point, or relocation. But yeah, I can't worry about that right now. But look, all said and done, the Flyers, as a guy came up here and told me, the Flyers did what they had to do. I think they did more than they had to do with the way they stood up for each other. And I think already through 2 games, this team has stood up for each other more than they did the entirety of last season.
Probably, yeah. You know what else about Nick Seeler I kind of forgot about until I saw Jordan Hall made a good point. He did not play last year.
Anyway,
he did not.
Wow.
He was involved with the Blackhawks at some point, and then I think they wanted to send him to the AHL, and he didn't report or something to that effect. But he did not play last season at all. So to see him bounce back, and really doesn't really seem he's missed a beat. That's even more impressive.
How fired up was he after that scrap with Alexei?
And look at it from his point of view. You go into so your season ends due to COVID. You go into the 2020 offseason. Nobody knows when you're going to play. The time rolls around to play. He has a falling out with the Blackhawks, gets bought out, doesn't play. I mean, he goes through 6 months of last year not knowing if he's going to get an opportunity to be in the NHL again. And now he does, and he comes out and he's able to do something like that in front of a crowd like this. I mean, you can tell why he's pumped up.
Yep, absolutely. And it's great that there was a crowd here that could get pumped up and that the team could feed off of and the crowd could feed off the team. Right. And once again, I thought the crowd was awesome again tonight. I really did. They were engaged in this game. And from, early in the game when Seattle's kind of takes the initial momentum and Carter Hart makes several big saves, breakaway for the first shot of the game for Seattle. They led 4-0 in shots right out of the gate. Mm-hmm. And Carter makes that acrobatic save about the 5 or 6 minute mark of the first period. And then the Flyers on that same possession go down the ice and Giroux wires that one-time bomb. Well, I mean, and it was a bomb, right? And that changed everything. Mm-hmm. And the fans were engaged. Look, they want to see this team be good, this team succeed, and they want to see this goalie rebound from what was a very tough year last year. And this fan base gets behind a team, and they are behind this team. You could feel it, and you could feel it in the building again tonight. When he made those saves, they weren't just cheers of, hey, good save cheers. They were, come on. We are pulling for you because we know what your position, what you mean to success in this sport in this town.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody wants to sit there and say, Carter Hart's, not going to develop into what we thought, or they don't want to do these things. They just, it's a little bit of a what have you done for me lately type of thing. But showing off the season the Flyers had last year, there really wasn't much else to talk about in the offseason, and that's why it's really refreshing now to have an opportunity to come out here, do better, and kind of get almost a new era really with this team. I mean, we haven't had this much of a change in the lineup in 10 years, going back to the Carter and Richards trades and all that. Everything else has been piecemeal here and there. the slate has been kind of wiped clean here, and these guys are seizing the opportunity, I think, so far. Now, again, it's 2 games, and I was reminded of something that it was actually Dave Haxtell that used to say it. You enjoy the wins, but you don't get too high on the highs. You don't get too low on the lows. You be even keeled, and it's a long season. The next step is to try to replicate it against who are turning out to be 2 of the better teams in the Eastern Conference to close out this homestand in Boston and Florida. And from there, we're headed on the road. And then then the season really begins, I think. You get these first 4 games at home. But once you're on the road and back in that environment again, which really the team hasn't been in most of last season, I think I know the Vegas game last year was the only time the Flyers left the time zone, and I'm not sure.
Tahoe game, yeah.
That's the Nevada. That's in Nevada. Yeah, that thing. I don't know the last time the team got on a plane, but it was considerably far from the end of the season.
Yeah.
They didn't have to fly anymore. So this is going to be a return to normalcy for a lot of the guys as well. So, exciting time. We'll see what happens on Wednesday. Got to come out and try to replicate this effort against a much better team.
Yep. Our next broadcast will be Wednesday against the Boston Bruins. That's a 7:30 puck drop.
It is.
Coming up on Wednesday, Flyers and the Bruins, and they'll wrap up the 4-game homestand, which opens the season coming up this Saturday night, 7 o'clock against the Florida Panthers. And like Brian just said, then the Flyers will hit the road for 3. They'll head to Edmonton, take on McDavid and Draisaitl and the Edmonton Oilers. A little late night action, 10 o'clock game. Then off to Vancouver for their first back-to-back of the season. That'll be on Wednesday and Thursday, and then the late night Saturday night, they'll take on at 10 o'clock the Calgary Flames before returning home here to the Wells Fargo Center to take on Arizona and kick off the month of hockey of November for the Philadelphia Flyers. But let's put a wrap on the postgame show. 6-1 win for the Flyers. A few people to thank before we get out of here. We start with our on-site engineers. Let's start with Betsy Deming up in the booth with Tim Saunders and Steve Coates. Did an excellent job tonight. Rodney Bird on hand as well for special assistance in all areas. Bob Grussman down here as well. For Tim Saunders, Steve Coates, Brian Smith, I'm Jason Martinez. You've been listening to Philadelphia Flyers Hockey, a 6-1 win over the Seattle Kraken on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. Good night, everybody.